they have their arm out and they trace their forearm bone up into the palm by their pinky side, that's where the gun belongs. Because when you do that and you pull back, it really solidifies the gun in space. So you can pretty much press the trigger as hard as you want. You'll feel when it's right because Nathan has his gun out. You'll feel when it's right because the gun feels very secure, right? It looks like you're a little off there, Nathan. Since we're playing guns, I'll go get mine out here.
Oh God, yes. Okay, hell yeah. Audio pistol shooting lesson day.
ASMR pistol shooting.
It's only a shame you can't see this fancy fake Beretta that I shoot. So
what is that? Oh,
so this is a Gerson Regard Gen 3.
Interesting.
Faux Retta. I love this gun. This gun is amazing.
You're listening to the Art and More podcast with your hosts, Nathan and B.R. Nathan is a Canadian illustrator with a couple years of military experience, and B.R. is a British anarchist that moved to the States. Both are passionate shooters and community builders. Together, they run the Seaburn art page. Enjoy the show.
Beep. Hey everyone, welcome back to the Art and War podcast. It seems like I've actually done a for real intro these last couple of times, and I just ruined it by acknowledging it because I don't think you're supposed to acknowledge an intro in the intro.
Power through.
It's like breaking the fourth wall.
Breaking the fourth wall. Now we're a meta podcast now, but today we've got Rob Epifania. I've typed your name a bunch, but I've never said it out. I've said it out loud a bunch, but I've definitely fucked it up every time. Epifania, I think.
That's pretty close. Epifania. That's how I say it. Epifania is how other people say it. I've gotten emphysema, epinephrine.
Oh my
god. A couple other empanada.
That's one of those names that looks like hell in any waiting room. Because lady comes out with the clipboard and just murders it.
It's pretty much like so even at matches, right? They'll always do roll call and they'll be like, Rob, and I'm like, I'm here.
Yep, there's no other Robs. I saw the pause.
That's because the pause is enough.
For a while, whenever I said your name to like, hey, yeah, we're doing guides with, I would forget you had an E in there, so it was like Robe Pifania.
Oh
I don't know why.
Anyway, Rob is joining us as a USPSA Grand Master, which is great because we were just talking about it before we got started. I'm a Brit Bong who couldn't get his hands on handguns his entire childhood. Nathan is actually like a really fucking good pistol shooter, but we've still got...
That's the autism. It's entirely just the autism and access to YouTube. And 9mm used to be cheap. But it's entirely thanks to people like Rob who put incredible guides up on the internet on basically how to unfuck your pistol shooting. Rob is an incredible pistol shooter. He does guides. Check him out. We're doing the shill part early, I guess. Rob, how are you?
Oh, I'm doing great, guys. Thank you guys for having me on here. Really appreciate that.
Of course.
So I guess we can get into what we were talking about right before we started recording.
Yeah,
please. BR was saying he was. Go ahead, BR. You can say.
Oh yeah, I was just lamenting about my first few times shooting like handgun, kind of doing repeated drills in front of a bunch of my Arizona buddies who obviously grew up shooting handguns and stuff, and just being so fucking embarrassed because my rifle stuff absolutely fine, but my pistol was atrocious. Like the second we get out of CCW class like standard kind of ranges, it was like, what is going on here, dude? So yeah, no, you were sharing too that's you started off struggling with pistols too, which was great to hear because it means there is some hope for me.
I don't know. It's great to hear that you at one point you were not good shooting a pistol, but
give hope to the rest of us.
If it helps other people. I mean, listen, whenever we start learning any skill, we're probably not going to be very good at it to start, right?
Yeah.
And anytime we're in a new position or so, you guys have heard of imposter syndrome, right?
Absolutely.
Yes. Oh man.
And I heard I think it was Jordan Peterson that actually said this. But, people have imposter syndrome. Well, in the beginning, you are an imposter, right? Because it's a new position. You don't know what the challenges are, the things that are going to come up. But through the opportunity to find solutions to problems, like you become the skilled person, you become the expert, the master, whatever. And it's no different for pistol shooting. So what I was going to say was, I remember I'd shot pistols very casually when I first started shooting pistols, which was in my 2009. So I was in my mid 20s. So I started shooting. I got the 1911 because you got John Moses Brown. You got to get the 1911. That's the first gun you get, right? In 45 because it's not a 44. I've done all those things, right? So, and I was, I felt like I was pretty cool when I can shoot a decent group at, I don't know, 5 or 7 yards or whatever it was. So I started getting into tactical and defensive classes in 2011. So I was a high level athlete up until 2010. I played basketball up into college. I played volleyball in my working years, and I was always training, always trying to get better. And had a motorcycle accident in 2010, and that basically stopped all the potential for reaching the highest levels in the sports that I was pursuing. So shooting was the next obsession. I didn't have to be the most athletic, but I'm athletic enough, and I can still perform at the top of this industry, and I could do it forever. You see, like Jerry Mitchell, like what was he, almost 70 years old, and he's like still a beast of a shooter.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Taran Butler.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
you don't have to be the most athletic to be one of the best in the world. And that was the allure. And I saw some defensive classes. It was actually a carbine class first, put up by Chris Fry of Modern Defensive Training Systems, who now runs Progressive Force Concepts. If you guys have heard that, that's in Vegas. And I took that class, a rifle class, and I was hooked. So anyway, a couple months later, I started taking every class they offered in the area: pistol, rifle, shotgun, knife. First pistol classes I shot. So I was big on the at the time I was still on the 45 is better than a 40 because it's not a 44. And I had a Glock 21C, right? Big honking gun. And I shot a low light class with it. And I think that was the first class that I took, was a low light pistol class. And it was a lot of single hand shooting, and it was the gun's compensated, so it's got the ports in the front. And my front sight got dusty from all the carbon, and then my rear sight was bright, and I got my ass kicked that whole class.
Oh man.
It was not fun. I mean, it was fun, but it wasn't fun. So, one of the things I remember talking to Chris about at the end was, he's like, man, there are a lot of people who shoot rifle and then shoot pistol that struggle with it.
Yep.
But if you're a good pistol shooter, chances are you'll still be a good rifle shooter. You'll be a better rifle shooter to start in relativity. And I'm like, well, now I have to make pistol like the thing.
Yeah.
And that started an obsession. At this point, it was 12 years ago that's been. So that's pretty cool, man. And it's become more and more of an obsession as time goes on. And it's still, to this day, I go to sleep, I can't wait to train the next day. I can't wait to dry fire like a weirdo in my garage,
Yeah, I mean, that right there, that's the difference between like being really driven into your hobby and having like, and I don't say this in a bad way, but like having an obsession with something that allows you to be at the tippy top when it's like, I'm excited to go back and do more of that, instead of just like, I'm pretty good at that. Maybe I'll show up to the competition this weekend.
Resting on your laurels, yeah. Like always driving to get better. I think that's an admirable trait in anyone.
Absolutely. And you know what it is too? Getting the opportunity to train people and teach people. I've always been a natural teacher. So even when I started with Chris, I remember the first class, I approached him at the end. I'm like, well, what do you have to do to be able to instruct and help teach and this and that? So he gave me some information, and over the course of the next year and a half, I started going from being only a student to being a student and kind of helping with some setup and some stuff, running some drills, getting my instructor certifications in end of 2012, and then helping him as an assistant instructor for 5 or 6 years. And that's when I started training with guys like Travis Haley, Frank Proctor, Tactical Performance Center, guys who blended both the tactical world with the competition world, and were able to do it very, very, very well. And that's when my mindset started shifting from competition would get you killed, because I was one of those guys. I was one of those guys that said, oh, it's just a game, it's this and that. And I was wrong. So once I started training with guys who did both, the common theme that I heard, the common thing that they said was being able to perform at a high level in a competition under pressure means you have a high ability to process information under pressure. What that allows you to do is that allows you to have more bandwidth to make better decisions in the field. So guys who are law enforcement officers and military guys overseas, if they were competition dudes also, they found that they were able to make better decisions. Their ability was subconscious when they had to decide to do something. But outside of that, their ability to process information was much higher. And that trickles down into everything. Like even if you were driving a car, being able to process a lot of information at high speed, provided you have the skill to support whatever it is that you're doing, will only help your ability in that moment.
Yeah.
That's actually a really cool way of looking at it. I hadn't thought of that. I'm familiar with the argument and agree with the argument that performing at a high level in competition will help you in regards to. And there's a lot of videos of this is kind of a weird example. I'm going to go on a little bit of a tangent. The videos in Brazil when competition shooters were allowed to concealed carry firearms, and there's a few videos of competition shooters getting into, unfortunately, defensive gun uses, but they perform at a very high level in what I'm sure is the probably the worst moment of their lives, but it all comes very naturally to them. It would be silly to say that skills don't translate, or that even worse, they'll get you killed.
Right. And that kind of leads into something that I tell people now. Most people know me on Instagram as a competition or a performance-based shooter. Most people don't realize that for 5 or 6 years I was only personal protection / concealed carry before that.
Oh, really? Before touching any competition stuff?
Correct. So it ended up being that I would always perform to the top of the class in whatever class I was in. And when I started training with the guys who blended performance and tactics / defensive use of handguns together, I started to see that there's another level. And performance speaks to me as an athlete. So being a high performance athlete, I was always trying to find this next level. So, and also when you're the big fish in the small pond, you need to find a bigger water to swim in, right? So that was the thing. It's like, well, now let's see how far I can go in competition. And that's when 2018 I started competing, and I started my Instagram and all that stuff. And that's the moment from people where people see, but they don't see all the shit that happened beforehand. So the way that I define it is tactics is knowing what you need to do and be able to execute it on demand to a high level. Right?
Yeah.
Provided you have the tactical knowledge of the situation to perform to a high level, like shooting a competition, score as many points as you can in as little time as possible, right? Like what Jared does with CQB, there are different rule sets associated with that, but the skill set, as long as you have the skill, being able to perform at a high level is only going to allow you the ability to make better decisions in those moments too.
Yeah. Something I wanted to get into, because it's kind of how we started off the conversation, is kind of background of shooters and kind of how important it is to develop. Like I've seen you basically saying how anyone can become a proficient high level shooter, and I think on a base level I agree with that. But for you, like, was there anything in your background aside from the like kind of high level athletic stuff that you feel helped you get to where you are as a shooter?
So the high level background in athletics, I mean, that obviously helps in the sense that, for one, so I played basketball. The first time I dunked a basketball, I was 5'9", and I was 12. I was 12 years old. I won. My dad said that if I could dunk a ball before I was 14, he'd give me $100. I did it a couple days before I was 13. I got kicked out of recess in school for hanging on the rim. So I had good genetics for in terms of like fast twitch muscles. I had very fast hands. I could jump obviously very high, which is a testament to how explosive your muscles can be at a singular moment. So that definitely helped from the athletics background too. Um, the knowledge of what it takes to be able to perform to the top of whatever your current comparison group is. So I used to play in basketball in the summers. We would practice 40 hours a week, and we would do games probably one night a week, and then we go to tournaments on the weekends. So you kind of understand like this is the grind, like this is what the grind has to look like in order for you to get to the top level. So from a mindset perspective and from a early now back in those days, I fucking hated it, right? Because I was a teenager, I didn't know any better. Like I
think that's
just
just a
wanted to go
teenager
hang
thing.
out with friends and go in the pool and like do silly shit. But
Yeah.
my dad he would tip the mattress over, he'd pour cold water on my face. He would drive me everywhere. Like I'm really thankful for that now. But in those moments, it's like this motherfucker, like no. But honestly, if he didn't do that, like I wouldn't be where I was today too. So I'm very thankful for those moments. But you don't realize it then. It comes out later when you have something that you really want to do, and now you have the power to know what it takes. From an analytical engineering standpoint, so being a mechanical engineer by degree, like that helps me kind of look at things a little differently, even as it relates to the body. So a lot of things you guys hear me talk about in terms of how I portray information, a lot of that comes more from like an engineering standpoint. The structure behind the elbows and why that, and the straight line and this and that. If you heard me talk about grip, which you haven't yet, but when I talk about grip in a meaningful way, like you'll hear very much, it sounds like an engineer talking about it and simplifying it into more layman's terms. So that allows me to see in greater depth what will allow me to be successful in terms of skill development. Right. And then there's other things too. So I study books on high performance all the time. So I've taken a lot from those. I've taken a lot of classes with different people, everything from mental management to performance-based shooting. So I'm doing a leadership certification with John Maxwell right now. It's all about learning and growth too. So you continue that process. Shooting is one of those things that you continue to put work in and you continue to try to grow. Like you're going to reach a good level of success. It's just continued effort, which can be the challenging point.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, and myself included, like for the longest time, I got very comfortable with my level of shooting just because I thought I was hot shit with a rifle. And then you like, you might feel like the best out of your small group, and you're like, okay, yeah, I'll get these guys up to where I'm at. And then you shoot with someone who's higher level, and you're like, I don't know a fucking thing.
Fuck.
Yeah, which is fantastic. It's an absolute pleasure to discover that, and like the more I've come across that over the years, the more excited I've been to learn more and to get to that higher level. But it does take, I think, the people who do this stuff best are the people, and I struggle with it as more of a like visual creative minded guy. Like it's always the people who can really delve into the technical factors of it. They understand like physically exactly what needs to be done to improve upon certain techniques, rather than when I hear this kind of stuff, it takes a little bit longer for me to track. Like I need someone to fucking show me what I'm doing incorrectly. When me and Nathan shoot together, Nathan will be like, "All right, look at what I'm doing with my hands." And I'm like, "Okay, cool, this makes sense." But if I just hear someone kind of talking me through the process, it's not going to do the same thing.
So where you're going, BR, is also people learn differently.
Yeah.
So the idea of someone who is a good instructor is that they can take the information. So it always starts this way, right? It starts off very simplistic because you don't, and I'm talking about myself as a shooter and as an instructor, right? It starts off very simplistic because you don't know what the fuck you're doing. You're kind of fucking around, trial and error, like trying to figure things out, right?
Yep.
That's the very beginning. And then it goes very deep and complex. That's when you get the long, like engineering explanations of why this and that and blah, 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 and it's a lot of words because the person who is saying it is trying to make sense of it themselves. They haven't done enough repetition on it. They haven't gone deep enough on it to really be able to simplify it for you.
Yeah.
Right. So then it goes from that. And then when you truly start to gain mastery of something, it starts to become very simple in the way that you can explain it that will deliver results. Right. So something as simple as, as elbow position. Right. So we want our elbows to be in as straight a line as possible. Right. And something I saw when you were playing around with your gun, Nathan, your elbows look very bent, but you might feel a little bit of bounce from that.
Yes.
So the gun can look very flat. I know now he's getting his gun out because he wants
he barely needs any temptation. He will dry fire through a whole fucking show.
Oh, me too. I got my guns back there.
I mean, you can. You're welcome to.
Yeah. No, I trained for about 90 minutes or so today. So I'm happy to be here right now. Let my forearms recover. But so one of the things that I say, right? We want our elbows to be a straight line as possible. We don't want this slope up. We don't want too much bend. The elbows are always going to bend, always, and absorb shock. So the stiffer we can make them, the better off we're gonna be able to absorb that recoil. But locking the elbows is no good. So the simplest way that I told people to get the ideal elbow position, if you, as an understanding, if you lock your elbows out and then pull the gun back about a half inch to an inch, right? And you guys can see this on video, but everybody's listening.
Yeah.
Lock them out, pull it back about a half inch to an inch. See how straight this is? But there's still a healthy bend in the elbows. And what that's going to do is that's going to give you a lot more structure behind the gun. And it's going to help you, right? Help the elbows and the body absorb recoil in a better way. And it's such a simple thing. People don't realize it. And I also do take like an upside down horseshoe and I try to, rotate my elbows up a little more. And that pinches at the top. So that helps out a lot too. All those little things, like they're simple. They don't have to be like crazy. If you want to think about gun position in the firing hand, right? What I tell people is if they have their arm out and they trace their forearm bone up into the palm by their pinky side, that's where the gun belongs. Because when you do that and you pull back, it really solidifies the gun in space. So you can pretty much press the trigger as hard as you want. You'll feel when it's right because Nathan has his gun out. You'll feel when it's right because the gun feels very secure, right? It looks like you're a little off there, Nathan. Since we're playing guns, I'll go get mine out here.
Oh God, yes. Okay, hell yeah. Audio pistol shooting lesson day.
ASMR pistol shooting.
It's only a shame you can't see this fancy fake Beretta that I shoot. So
what is that? Oh,
so this is a Gerson Regard Gen 3.
Interesting.
Faux Retta. I love this gun. This gun is amazing. Very well balanced. Great weight. I feel like there's not a lot of weight in the slide. It's about 36, 37 ounces, which is not that heavy.
Yeah.
And the recoil is reasonably soft because of the locking block design, but the gun darts around from target to target so fast. It's fun. Anyway, so what I say is I put it right here. Right? You see how now you guys can't see on the podcast, but in here, the back strap of the gun is fully encompassed by my palm. And you should be able to feel that, Nathan. Right? Yeah. And when it's done right, like I could press this trigger. This is a 6.5, 7 pound double action trigger. And you can see here, it's not moving.
Yeah.
And you should be able to press that trigger reasonably aggressive without having it move. Right? Now, if I shift it over and I do the same exact trigger press, you guys will see it here. I'll tell the audience what's happened. Watch this.
Oh yeah.
Up and to the right.
Yep.
Because what's happening is when you press the trigger 7 pounds back, the gun has to be able to support 7 pounds. So what happens is because it can't, it moves. So by putting it in the palm and pulling straight into the palm, now once I fix that, like the gun doesn't move. I can press this.
That's interesting.
That's a big take home.
I think I've been overcompensating with my support hand to try and make up for that.
Well, the support hand can help you in the sense that it can compensate for firing hand push. Oh, we're gonna have some fun now. So firing hand push, right? Firing hand.
Everyone, if you're listening to this, I don't care where you are. If you're at work, I don't care. If you're on the freeway, I don't care. Pull out your pistols and start dry firing with us.
Just in traffic.
So getting into that, right? So what happens is this. Firing hand tension is typically this. People go from, they're told to hold the gun with the firing hand light, right? You guys have probably heard that before.
Yeah.
Relax the firing hand.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Which is awesome until you start shooting and you don't feel like you're holding the gun tight enough. Then you go from 10% to 100% and you get this push, right? So what I've learned through experimentation and all these different things is the middle finger is really the one that's the most responsible for trigger finger tension or trigger freeze. You guys have gotten that before?
Yeah.
Where you go to shoot and your finger gets locked. That's a sign of too much tension in your whole hand, locking the trigger finger in place.
Yeah.
Okay. So the finger that's most responsible for that is the fuck you finger. It's the middle finger, right? So if you guys see here, the audience, I'm just holding my hand up to them. If I move my pinky, you see how my index finger doesn't move that much? You guys could try this at home. If I move my ring finger, it doesn't move that much. But watch what happens when I move my middle finger.
Yep.
Huh.
So what I do is I put the gun in that spot in the hand, and then I apply pressure towards the ring and the pinky finger. And what that does, I can grip this as hard as I want, and I still have full dexterity in my finger. I'm gripping this pretty much 100% as with the bottom here, and I still have somewhat movement here. This is not that tight, right? And I still have dexterity. It also locks the wrist in place so the gun doesn't rise as much on you.
Interesting.
And now I can be pretty aggressive with the trigger, and it doesn't really move. So the support hand, what that helps, if you have a problem where you're pushing left and you're in the moment, the most common correction I give people is this. Tighten your support hand, rotate your support elbow. Because that provides resistance to what the firing hand is trying to do. It doesn't solve the problem. You solve the problem through dry fire, and dry fire even single-handed will help that, right? But it will, in the moment, take you from shooting left to shooting center, pretty much immediately.
I think I leaned on that a little too hard. That's generally what I do.
You know what you haven't done? Enough single-handed shooting?
Yeah.
So that's
absolutely
really what it is.
Not good at single-handed shooting. Enough to get through, the T-Rex course of fire, basic
you can get a
stuff.
lot better. So the first thing, interestingly enough, and this is from, so everything came from other things too. So being creative and resourceful with information, if you apply it to what we're talking about, my thing I always used to say was that I'm not that good at thinking outside of the box. So my solution to that was to make the box as large as possible. So that little tip I gave you guys about the firing gun in the firing hand, that came from Starting Strength. Have you guys ever heard of Mark Rippetoe and Starting Strength?
No, actually.
So that he does a very good lifting program to get people really strong fast.
Yes,
right?
I have heard of this.
Now, one of the things in that is the press, the overhead press. And he tells you not to be straight, but actually to curl your hands over the bar so that when you wrap under, the bar sits on those bones. You get the most power transmission into the bar for lifting more weight.
That makes sense.
So I said, we could probably apply that to guns. So I've been doing that for 3-4 years at this point. Now, the next thing to think about also is practicing strong hand only work first. So Michael Jordan, best basketball player in the world, arguably, right? He's my idol when I was young. The first thing, I read Tim Grover's book, and this is a great book for anybody listening. He's got 2 of them, Relentless and Winning, by Tim Grover. He was Michael Jordan's trainer for 15 years. Michael Jordan started off every single session with a chest pass. The most simple thing you could do in basketball, and that's what the greatest player of all time started off with. So I heard that information. I said, well, a trigger press is probably the simplest thing I could do. So I started off with this. It's called trigger control at speed, where you have a beep from the timer.
Yes.
You start on target. Good.
You have that in your video.
Yes. Yep. In the Orion dry fire training video, I have that also.
Yeah.
So what that is, that's a trigger press with some time pressure added to it, and the intention is to press the trigger in time twice as hard as you need to, and not have the gun move while being within the initial beep, which is 0.3 of a second, 0.4 of a second. Okay. So I always practice it strong hand only, weak hand only first. Why? Why do you think?
I'd imagine kind of the, and this is me completely proselytizing. You were mentioning that if you're good with a pistol, you're probably good with a rifle. If you are good with a rifle, doesn't necessarily translate the other way. It's half of a motion. It's a more complicated motion than shooting with both hands. It isolates, technique into one of your hands, whereas gripping, say what I've been doing, over gripping with my left hand is easy. This breaks down your fundamentals into one thing that you have to be good at. Just a guess.
Yep, that's it. So you went a little on the deep. So you went into the complex, right? You went really trying to figure out the nitty gritty of it. The simple answer, and that's not. Listen, that's great. That's a good. It is the right answer. It's a good answer. The simple answer is this: because you don't have your support hand, your firing hand grip and your path of movement of your finger need to be near perfect if you're pressing the trigger aggressively under time pressure for it to be good.
Yeah.
And what that's going to do, you accumulate, let's say you do 10 to 20 of those every day, right? It'll take you 30 seconds to 45 seconds to do it. You do that every day for 3 months. What's going to happen to your two-handed shooting? Your single-handed shooting is going to get better, but your two-handed shooting is going to rock.
Yeah.
Because now you're already, this part is perfect. Now this is just bonus.
Yeah.
You guys haven't seen I don't think you've even seen the video where I even take the firing hand away totally and I just hold it with my support hand. That's another freaky one. That's a mind fuck for people.
Wait, what?
Oh yeah, hold on. Let me while we're here, while you guys watch.
I'm learning so much.
People love this one, by the way. I'm gonna copy this link to you. Where is it? Hold on, let me find you guys here. I'm going to copy this link to you, and you guys could just kind of watch that on your own time. So this just demonstrates you really don't need the firing hand for recoil control, and that's with 40. I was shooting a 40 cal 2011 there. I was sponsored by Atlas Gunworks for a couple of years. Holding it with the support hand only, and literally doing this with my finger to work. Yeah. So that just tells you how much the firing hand is really needed. But what I've also learned in time is that how tight you hold the gun with your firing hand is really user subjective. So what has to happen, it has to be that the gun doesn't move around your hands. So you guys.
Yes, your Gersan, not Beretta.
So yeah, faux Retta. So we have here, right? I'm barely holding the gun here, right? I don't have my finger. The gun's just resting in my hand, and you can see the bottom of the grip wiggling here. So I need to grip hard enough that stops happening, right? For you guys, good reference for Mr. B.R. there, wet noodle handshake.
yeah.
Right. That's how tight I need to hold it, and it feels awful. Like it just feels disgusting. But right, that's what needs to happen. That's maybe 10% of my grip. It feels barely anything. You guys see here. So the next part I'll point you guys to now. This is good, but watch my wrist joint. See how that moves?
Yeah.
And now I just have to apply. My wrist joint is moving because my wrist isn't like locked in place through the muscles in the forearm. So all I do is I add more pressure at the ring and pinky finger till that stops. Now you see it's all one. Right?
Yep.
And that's how tight I have to hold the gun. Need to. Yeah. How tight you want to. I found that it's dependent on the user. For me personally, I hold the gun pretty tight with those two fingers. Like I hold it probably 80%, 90%. Like I'm not, a percentage thing isn't good, but I'm putting a good amount of effort into holding that gun tight.
Yeah.
Especially shooting single-handed. But now if I could do that and I could work the trigger, as much as I want to without the gun moving, like you can see here, like I'm moving that and the gun doesn't move. What do you think that does to my ability to actually shoot live?
Oh, speeds you up a hell of a lot.
it gives me a lot of potential for good results, right? That doesn't replace, actually being acclimated to live fire, but for someone who's a casual shooter or someone who's learning, that's automatically going to improve your results.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, a lot of this stuff that we just talked about, what will happen is, because you've become more efficient, your first couple shots when you start shooting fast are going to go straight down low.
Yeah.
Why do you think that might be?
I've always noticed that happens to me if I'm not conscious of my support hand grip. I would imagine that this is because we are talking about isolating hands. That's not really a factor in what you're asking.
So where I'm kind of going is a little bit more gross. So 9 millimeter recoil is about 10 pounds of force approximately. Because you have all these inefficiencies, let's say 9 or 10 comes back, you have to push back with 13 to get it to go back on target. There's always a bracing, and when you shoot fast, you always do have to push on the gun a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Let's say you solve all these things, and now you're perfectly efficient, 100%. But you haven't really gotten a chance to try it out and shoot it at the range. So you get 10 coming back, all you need is 10 going forward, but you put 15 in. What's going to happen to the extra 5?
Yeah.
You're going to dip.
Push
straight low. And that's something people have said to me. They said, man, like the gun feels a lot better, but I'm shooting low. So, well, it's because you're now doing it correctly. Your body's used to doing it inefficiently. Now you're doing it efficiently, so that excess is going down. That's as simple as it is. If I pushed you real hard and then all of a sudden I pushed you light, what would you do? You'd crash into it.
Overbrace.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or you'd fall on your face if I moved out of the way, right?
Yeah.
I've done that to people too. And I've had that done to me where okay, I know it's happening. I know it's going to happen. And all of a sudden it happens and I still go forward. It's so subconscious.
We are here with a quick word from our sponsors, Attorneys for Freedom, and some all-new additional benefits they've added to their Attorneys on Retainer program. If you're like 90% of our listenership and live stateside in the US and listen to this show, chances are you carry a gun. If you do, you should consider the legal implications of carrying and using that gun for self-defense. Nathan and I use Attorneys for Freedom to give us peace of mind. Attorneys for Freedom offer a drastically different setup to most run-of-the-mill concealed carry insurance programs. Attorneys for Freedom specialize in real criminal defense, providing experienced attorneys on retainer for self-defense cases across all 50 states. Attorneys for Freedom's coverage is extensive, handling scenarios often overlooked by others, such as defensive display of a firearm, self-defense from home intrusion, protection against imminent threats of serious bodily injury or death, and civil lawsuits from attackers or their families, as well as self-defense scenarios such as using while in gun-free zones or sensitive areas, while under the influence or on medication, when you knew your attacker, or while using any weapon in self-defense, from a firearm to household objects or otherwise. But there's more. With Attorneys for Freedom, you're assured of steadfast support without the fear of being dropped or facing payback demands, even in police situations. They're ready to cover 100% of your attorney fees if they can argue self-defense and serious felony charges. Nathan and I have already joined, and it's a breeze for you to do so too. The National Self-Protection Plan kicks off with a $100 one-time fee and just $35 a month thereafter. Opt for family or annual plans for even greater value. Signing up through the link in our show notes or the CBO in our Instagram bio not only supports our show, but also secures you an arsenal of additional benefits. Up to $1,000 towards firearm replacement if confiscated, up to 10 mental health counseling sessions capped at $1,500, legal representation for non-self-defense matters at 35% off attorney rates, and many more incredible benefits detailed via the link in the show notes or at attorneysonretainer.us/artandwar. Ensure you're covered in every state and ready for anything with Attorneys for Freedom. Support the show and gain peace of mind knowing you have the best in legal defense on your side. Thanks for listening. How's it going, lads and ladies? BR here with a quick word from the longest running sponsor of the Art and War podcast, Advanced Warfighting Solutions. AWS have been making tough as hell gear for decades right here in the US in North Carolina. Nathan, myself, and thousands of others run that gear through the ringer and trust our lives to it, whether that's LARPing in the woods or dragging kit through war zones. AWS manufactures many great packs, pouches, plate carriers, and our personal favorite, the SMU Operator Belt. A set and forget gun belt that crushes in build quality, capability, and excellent feedback from its many users. We are tough on our gear here at Art and War, and the SMU takes that treatment in its stride. Though already at a sweet price point, you can knock $10 more off your SMU belt with the code ARTandWar10 at awsin.com. The code and link to the AWS website can be found in the show description. Thanks for listening, now let's get back to the show. Yeah, those are the kind of things that I seem to pick up. Like, every time I learn something new about handgun shooting, I will then discover a new issue because
yes,
like I have fixed something, and now, like you said, I'm now overcompensating for because I had like bad fundamentals, and I've been like all of 2023 for me with handgun was kind of identifying the bad habits I'd picked up just to be like a very mediocre but okay, I could use my handgun if I needed to protect myself kind of level, and then kind of going back through 5 years of being in the States, being like, okay, what are all of my hiccups and bad habits that I've picked up from being told by a guy who might know what he's on about, or a friend kind of like, oh, no, I do this, and then just copying exactly what they do, but it's not quite right for me. So it is quite a long journey. Like for you, learning handgun shooting, was there any aside from what we've already kind of covered, were there any big sticking points that were quite revelatory for you to get better as a shooter?
A lot of them were these kind of things.
Grip kind of based.
So it's always kind of gone this way. I've always spent the majority of my time and focus on probably one or two items. Okay, so in the beginning, right, and this is pretty much cyclic to the point where I actually tell people this is what they should do, because if you work on everything, you take your dry fire session. Let's say you do 60 minutes and you break it up evenly into all these different skills.
Yeah.
Right. You make those skills 1 to 2% better over the course of a couple months. You're not that much better.
Yeah.
But if you take what I call 80-20, right? If you take 20% of the inputs that are going to get you 80% of the output of the result, it's usually one or two things, and you go deep on that shit. Now you become significantly better at those things.
Yeah.
And now you're a different person entirely. And so that was my thing, chasing reloads, right? People know me for my reloads because they're fast and whatever.
Yeah, they look like video game reloads.
Yeah,
They're
look like
blink and
CGI.
you miss it. Yeah.
And
I
those are the
appreciate the
free
fact you
drills
put
also.
out a video about that too.
Yes,
That
feel
helps
free,
me
man.
a ton.
Yeah, the free drills. I mean, they have draw, presentation, sewing machine, and reloads, which are all very, very useful. They all were based on a pursuit of like what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Now you've gone deep on this one or two things. Now, how deep can you go on the other things, because you understand what it takes to really go deep on a topic and become an expert or a real master at that topic, right? So that's super important. So in my journey, it was the first thing I wanted to learn how to do. Well, for one, shoot a handgun, period. But two, you ever heard of surgical speed shooting?
No.
So it sounds cool, and it is cool. It was my first obsession, right? Being able to hold a fist-sized group at 3 yards, shooting quarter second per shot or faster.
Yeah.
That was my first obsession. Okay, so there was that, and I became very obsessed with that, and that's where my sewing machine drill that you'll see in the free drills video. That's where I came up with this exercise, because I want to be fucking awesome at that. And I didn't really care for like the cadence method of shooting. You guys have heard of that, I'm sure.
Yeah,
like
with
1,000,
2,000,
3,000.
Yeah. So here's an interesting thing. For one, that commits you to a shooting pace. And what is the most important cadence to master?
Oh gosh. You got me.
I would guess it would be shooting as quick as your gun can reset.
Okay. What do you think, Nathan? You got to answer something. You can give me whatever. It doesn't matter.
I like it when the guests put us on the spot.
Not necessarily as fast as your gun can reset, but shooting the fastest cadence that your gun can return to the same general point of aim.
That's a better
like doubles.
They sound like good answers, right?
Yeah, and I'm probably wrong. I can already see your face.
Even if Nathan's is wrong, I switched my answer to his.
So in teaching this, right? The thing that I learned was this. Let's put ourselves in the class situation, right? You guys are going to watch how the gun moves. This is how most instructors do this, right? All right, we're going to do the 1,000, right? 1, 1,000, 2, 1,003, right? You see how, so for the people listening, the gun rises up way high. It takes all of 1 second to come back down on target. Okay.
Yeah.
Then what happens? Well, and students do this and they shoot just fine at 1,000, but then they suck when they're going fast, right?
Yeah.
So the most important cadence is actually the slowest one, because what you want is this, right? 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, right? The gun's going up for people listening. Gun goes right up, comes right back down, and then I'm waiting for 0.8 of a second before I press the next shot.
Yeah.
If you get the gun recoiling, it goes up a little bit, it comes right back to point of aim right away. Now, when you're actually shooting the faster cadences, now all you're doing is pressing the trigger faster. So if you get that slow cadence perfect, all you're doing is pressing the trigger faster. And that was the sewing machine drill was kind of come up because I didn't like the cadence method, and that allowed me to build speed based on that concept. Picture an automatic sewing machine going back and forth, minimal rise, returns back to the same spot, and you are looking for that picture. The subconscious works on images, not words. Or if we're thinking words, that's conscious thought, and that disrupts our performance. The subconscious works on images, so that image of the gun coming back, rising up and coming right back down. That's a pretty powerful image, and then your subconscious will try to make that happen.
That's interesting.
And then when it starts happening, speed up, and the group should not open up appreciably when it's done correctly.
That's something else. That's something else big on my to-do list is to speed up, because like I was getting to the point, like it starts out where you're like, I'm a meh shooter. You tighten your groups, and then it's like, okay, well now I need to go faster. And now, like I am still in the infantile stages. I think of my pistol shooting, but that's where I'm at now. And even with my rifle shooting, I could definitely speed it up. Where it's like, okay, that's what I need to work on next. But the cadence stuff has been a struggle for me. So like,
yeah.
So I would try this exercise, the sewing machine exercise, because the whole purpose of that exercise was to be able to shoot as many shots as I wanted to without getting trigger freeze, be able to hold that group at full trigger speed and have full awareness of what was happening with the gun the entire time.
Yeah.
And not to be committed to a pace. So I didn't realize it then, but it actually created a lot of awareness of what was going on in the gun. Plus, this works on your grip tremendously, because in my case, I would do 10-round strings. So you start off, the first couple would be like what I call measurement shots, where you're getting that effect to happen, and then the last 4 or 5 shots would be full speed, and the group would stay reasonably tight, like 2 to 3 inches at 5 to 7 yards. And that's the intention of the exercise there, right? And also, I don't know if you guys, how you guys feel about this, but have you ever heard someone, the slow down and get your hits gang?
How do you mean?
Someone comes up to you, you're shooting, you're having trouble, and they say slow down and you got to slow down. You got to get your hits.
I've been very lucky in the fact that most of my shooting, which has been pretty consistently, when the weather allows, once to twice a week, it has for the last many years just been in the middle of nowhere. I don't like dealing with people.
So BR, you look like you've heard that yourself a couple times.
Yeah, no, for sure.
So if anybody ever tells you that, you know what that means?
Nope, what's that?
That means they don't know what to tell you, because they can't see what's happening and they don't understand what's happening at speed to give you the right advice to succeed.
Just a blanket.
It's a blanket cover-up statement.
Yeah.
Right. By slowing down, you might mask the problem. You could also do it just as shitty and slow.
Yeah.
But I've seen that too. You could be more deliberate, which just means what? We're paying attention. And I've seen people become more deliberate and faster at the same time. But what happens is they can't see at speed what's happening. So in order to make themselves feel better, they just slow down. And then you get a hit or two, and they're like, yeah, well,
instructor credentials verified.
Yes, yeah. Exactly. And my buddy came up with that. So he's a law enforcement guy, and he taught on the SWAT teams in NYPD, and him and I worked very close together. And that was actually his commentary there, because they don't know, they can't see it. And someone like me, I'll never tell you to slow down. Fast and slow is a result, right? And how you're focusing your attention and what solutions you're working on can get you the results. Now, you may slow down as a result of paying more attention to one or two things, which is fine. But slowing down is not the answer, right? It's doing something different, changing one thing at a time until seeing if is it better, is it worse, is it the same? So I'll give you guys for instance. Here's a good one. When I was working at 1 second draws from concealment, right? So I was doing a Travis Haley deliberate practice drill, very, very good drill. I've used it with a lot of students to get very good results. Starts off at 5 seconds, and you have to break the shot at full extension, and you have to break the shot within plus or minus 1/10 of a second of the time.
Yeah.
5 seconds is miserable. Anyway. But then you go 5, and then you go 4, and then you go 3, and then you go 2, and then you go to 1.5 seconds. So I'm breaking the shot at 1.5 seconds. And then I go 1 second and then below. At 1 second, I was having a problem pulling the gun left, pulling the shots left. Okay. But at 1.5, it wasn't present. So I was like, what the fuck is going on? The thing that I realized, and this is where that presentation process comes from. The thing that I realized is at 1.5 seconds, I had all this time in the world relatively to get my fingers touching, clamped on, present the gun to fire, right? But at 1 second, I was pushing the gun out so hard and I wasn't clamping the gun fast enough. So when I would come out and I tighten my support hand, the gun would go to the left, right? For the same reason that the gun moves in the hand when it's not in the right position, right? The fingers are actually pulling the gun into the support hand versus the support hand already being clamped onto the gun. So what do? Do I slow down? Obviously not, because my draws are under a second. But so the idea was this. I was thinking about it, and I was like, okay, I think this is the problem. So all I'm going to do is tell myself to clamp early. Get on the gun so fingers touch, palm touches right away, and I start applying pressure right away. And then the gun goes out.
Yeah, you had that in your draw video. Fingers, then palm, then pressure.
Then leverage, yep.
Yeah.
So that anybody listening, fingers, palm, pressure, leverage, that is the presentation process part of the draw, or any sort of, hey, I'm coming into a position, I want to start shooting. After a reload, I do the same thing, presenting the gun out. That's going to lock the gun in place better. Your grip should be ready to shoot before you're even on target. And it's going to put the dot or the sights in the center of the target more often for most people.
Yeah.
You can try it now.
Since I noticed you like dry firing based on the few changes and the few tips that you put into your video that I implemented, holy crap, just everything's more consistent. Just like slightly faster, slightly more consistent. Like the dot always comes up to the eye every time. It's great. It's great.
And imagine what a month or two of work consistently on that will do for you.
Yeah. It's been like 3 days and everything's already significantly more consistent. And it wasn't, I'm not going to tat myself on the back or whatever. It wasn't overly inconsistent beforehand. I'm like an okay shooter, but it helped
twice a fucking
lot.
week.
That's just, again, the autism and the poor time management. But
listen, man, like it's enough of an effect for most people that, like, even USPSA magazine posted the article I wrote about that thing, and I see you there. Yeah. So yeah, you lock out, you pull a little back, and then, like I said, I can press this trigger as hard as I want to.
Yeah.
Like I'm
just pulling it as hard as I can back towards me and nothing's moving.
Yeah.
So,
and how good does that feel, man?
It feels good. I mean, the key is to do that with one hand, because I still get a bit of dot movement.
So where's the dot moving?
The dot is moving slightly upwards, not really to the right or anything. So it's I've been experimenting now with where the grip's sitting in my palm, which you were mentioning before.
Think about this. Think about see if you could put your finger a little higher in the trigger face. Let's see if that'll make a difference. See,
finger a little higher towards the knuckle or towards the
a little. So finger. This is your trigger face. Bring it a little higher, because you could be pressing the trigger in an upward motion. See if that does anything for you.
It's a little less movement.
So what might be happening is that you might be pressing, like your finger path is not straight back.
Yeah.
It's actually at an upward angle.
Yeah.
So that's why I say normally people will push it a little down, and I'll tell them to bring their finger lower on the trigger face. But in your case, if it's straight up and it's a little bit, it's probably that. And you could also try tightening the ring and pinky finger a little more.
Okay.
Yeah, give that a try and see if it helps the movement also.
Oh yeah.
So in that case, what's happening is the gun is moving into your hand up a little bit.
Yeah.
So like when you press the trigger, it's kind of doing a little bit of this.
Yeah.
I'm exaggerating it, but you get the idea. Those little things make a big difference.
I'm learning so much. It's to the point where it's like, if it wasn't, after dark, as soon as we were done, I would just run to the range. Like
right?
hop in the Prius, toss a box of 9mm and my hearing protection in the back and just go.
Dude, and when you get a chance, like let me know how that works out too.
Oh, 100%. I'll be bugging you a bunch regarding the guides in the coming weeks.
Oh, we have to do that. I mean, listen, we could do so much information. If there's anybody that has any interesting topics about pistols they would like us to talk about, like we could definitely make some good information for you guys. And I think that would be a lot of fun to do.
Yes. Even over this call, I shoot a lot, and again, like I shoot to okay proficiency, but that doesn't mean that I'm not doing things wrong. And it seems that I've been doing the wrong things for a long time. So it seems like a lot of habits to be unlearned.
Well, that's something. Oh, sorry.
Good.
I was going to say that's something that I think it doesn't matter what part of this space you're in, whether it's even the medical stuff or the shooting or radios, like there's always things that are bleeding edge right now in 10, 15 years will be wrong, quote unquote, in, a little bit more time. Like, while they might be, like, techniques are always evolving, we can always do things better and we can always identify, what's kind of old hat and kind of antiquated. But
yeah. Well, you ever used to watch the videos of the like 20, 30, 40 years ago, the professional pistol shooters there, like the guys at the top of their game? I watched those, and I'm not particularly good, but I'm like, I can do that. That seems not particularly like things have evolved quite a bit since then. Techniques have evolved quite a bit since then. I think the overall standard for performance has gone up significantly.
Well, I think the advent of the internet too, right? So YouTube and all that stuff. There's a lot of free information out there.
Yes, which I love. I'm all about that.
Well, and I think so. So my philosophy is give away as much as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And then the way that I always picked the people that I wanted to take a class with and patronize would be people who I watched a bunch of their shit before I ever did anything with them. So the first guy I trained with when I started competing was Robert Vogel. And I I consumed a lot of his content, and then I reached out to him via email, and he was super nice to respond. And I booked a class with him. It was July of 2018 was my first competition oriented class, and it was a great experience. I think that's a nice thing too about this community is that everybody's pretty accessible. So if you want to reach out to somebody, like it's not like we're these fucking celebrities. We're not. Like we're regular people. Like I have a day job. I'm a regular nerd at some place in plastic injection molding, and it's but I'm around to answer questions. I want to help people, and you find that this community is a lot of people are very willing to help, and that's important.
Yeah, the more accessible people are, generally, the more I'll A, trust their knowledge, and B, see that it's not just kind of like snake oil salesman kind of behavior. Like, if someone has the gatekeeping mentality of, oh, to learn all these super secret techniques, you have to come to my class. It's like, that is telling me that you're selling a gimmick rather than like, hey, here are the techniques that you could learn and come to my class and I will personally one-to-one tutor you on these and talk you through it. Like, those are very different kind of sales pitches to, like, you have to come to this place and pay to unlock the secret knowledge, compared to, no, anyone can learn this stuff, but come and do it in person, and we'll like make sure you master it. And I see the market trending much more towards, thankfully, like, hey, this is just going to be a one-on-one guided way to learn these things instead of the usual gatekeeping we used to get more with, kind of, especially with like the more mill and LEO oriented classes. Those seem to be all but dead now. It's just people, apart from like obviously very specific sort of lessons. We're getting more into a freedom of information culture these days.
Well, and I think so. Even if you, and this is myself included, when I watched these things, even if you watch all the content, you're not going to exactly understand it in the way it might be intended to be understood.
Yeah.
So I watched all Vogel stuff, watched it all, and I applied it as I knew, and it got me results. And then when I did it with him, it was even more eye-opening, because you get those little things for you specifically that click it together fully. Yep. And that's what the power of giving that stuff away. People are going to consume it. That's going to help them, and then they're going to encounter sticking points, right? And those sticking points are probably from little bits of discrepancies between what they think it actually is and what it actually is.
Yeah. That's been a struggle of mine, like kind of trying to learn those good habits over the years, and maybe like just from a YouTube video, and then accidentally teaching myself bad habits from not getting the complete picture. And even just you describing, I mean, Nathan's, like watched some of your stuff and been practicing a little bit of it, and then just you having even, a quick 10 minutes one-on-one with him here on this call, like just, hey,
yes,
do this
it's
just
adding
a little different.
Yeah, I'm here obsessively dry firing just to like keep the memory in before it fades, so I can do this later.
Well, that's why I set up the online lessons too, right? The online Zoom lessons. Those I've been doing those for a couple of years now, and it's very powerful because you can see things that you can't normally see in a class too. So like Nathan pointing his gun at the camera would not be an issue. They haven't made the technology where you can shoot through a camera yet, right? Yeah. The little robots haven't done that shit yet.
So the CIA might have it.
So right, so they can point the gun at the camera, and I can clearly see everything from the front. I can really give you a lot of feedback based on that, where you can't really get that in a class as well.
I hope not.
Yeah. No, fuck no. I'm not. We're not standing in front of a gun.
That's unloaded, right? All right. Let me see your. Let me see your point.
Yeah. No, thank you, man. I've seen too many horror videos of that. But even then, I train people all over the world because of this kind of opportunity, and it gets results for people. Which is it's just a good opportunity. Nobody has to travel everywhere. You don't have to spend $1,500, booking a flight and a hotel and all that stuff. It just works out. It works out really well, and that's one of the benefits of technology too. Just like we're having this conversation here, and I can give Nathan a semi little lesson while I'm kind of just watching him fuck around with his pistol.
Yeah.
And we can have something that he's excited about to go to the range and try out.
Yeah. I'm going to be dry firing this like all night. I hope you know that.
I wouldn't expect any less.
Good. Excellent.
But yeah, no, it's just that's the fun part about all this stuff too. And going back to way back at this point, just the obsession of one or two things at a time that's going to get you closest to your result is really where I focused. So it was recoil control, then it was the concealed carry draw, right? Then it was open carry draws and reloads. Then right now it's actually transitions, movement, and information processing. So actually, something you guys can play around with. Nathan's gonna go crazy doing this.
Oh no!
So I'm gonna give you this. I'm gonna copy this and paste it in the chat.
I'm so curious. We should save these for the notes.
Yes.
The description. Yeah.
So here you go. This is concentration grids, and so again, being resourceful and thinking about ways to be able to improve your craft at any time. I use this. So at work we make parts. on machines, and they take 30 to 60 seconds to make, the plastic parts. So in the short term, this link, it's called concentration grids. I do 5x5, 5 columns, 5 rows, and it generates a grid, and it's always different every time. And you click the numbers 1 through whatever, and preferably do it on the phone because the phone is faster. Okay. Yeah. It's always random. You have to process the information, make a plan, and act on it by using your fingers or thumbs to press it, kind of like pressing a trigger, as fast as you can, and it's timed. And what that allows, what I've noticed is just for playing that over and over again, a couple minutes a day, 5-10 minutes a day for a year, I noticed my ability in shooting and my awareness in shooting has gone up too. So it's a tremendous
being
information.
Able to respond to stimulus or process information faster.
Yes, because I'm trying to get as fast a time as I can. I currently have the high score for 6x6 and 8x8 on that website. I'm close to the 5x5. I think it was 10th or 12th. You're going to play it and you're going to be like, what the fuck? How does he fucking do this? My fastest time for the 5x5 is a 5:20. So it's got 25 numbers. You got to press them in order 1 through 25.
That's interesting.
You're going to see. You'll see. And like I said, doing it for about a year, I've totally seen awareness increases in my ability of shooting. Higher speed stuff.
And this is just something you can do like on the bus,
Exactly.
And just in a coffee shop, just wherever.
Right. You just become obsessed. You become obsessed over something, and you think of ways to improve it everywhere. I used to at the end of my workday, I would do like movement drills in the back of my building without a gun.
Yeah.
But I pretend like I'd hold my arms up like I had a gun, but I was just doing anything that I could do to take that time and try to get a little better.
Security guard watching you on the camera is like,
no, they know what I do. No, it's just Rob. This is Rob doing a shooting thing.
And here I am, like tapping the screen of my computer like a cat. I don't know if you could just see the
I imagine that's not doing too much for you.
Wait until you try it. So real quick tips for those, right?
Yeah.
This is cool too because too much focus and you get tunneled in. You can't find the numbers.
Yeah.
Too little focus, you're just slow. So the distance from the phone matters. Use 2 hands and really try to find the ideal level of focus to get the best results. You'll see.
So neat.
I bet you Nathan will text me tomorrow.
I've been doing this for 7 hours. I'm so close to your time.
Like my eyes are bleeding. I don't know why.
My fiance and I we're in Texas, and I was sitting there playing the 6x6 for like an hour and a half, trying to get like just over and over again.
Have you ever taken the RADS test?
Oh,
what's that? Obviously not. So.
That's a joke. Don't take it. Don't take it.
Okay. Well.
You don't like the results.
Well, no, I feel like you have to explain it. You have to explain it now, otherwise you're leaving him hanging.
Well, listen, we have the internet.
Yeah. It's
RAADS.
I figured it was that. Yep.
Yeah. Almost everyone who's come on the show, I want Jared to take it. I don't know how the hell he hasn't. I feel like most of the high level gun guys score really high. Like I think a lot of the listeners have done it now, and I think the average is about 100. The pass mark is 65. BR failed.
Yeah, I'm just team brain damage.
A lot of the high level shooting guys all score over 100, sometimes over 200.
I'd be curious to take it just to see.
I'd be curious. You'll have to tell me your results. It doesn't take very long. It's like 5 minutes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I'll definitely.
It is not like 5 minutes. It's like 40 minutes. It's ridiculous. Don't listen to him.
That's because you failed at the test. We have Rob Epifania here. He can do a concentration grid in like 3 seconds flat. He can nail this thing out in like 2.5, guaranteed.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's only 80 questions. It's not that long.
Yeah. I did this in the frozen foods aisle of a superstore. Which is like a very autistic thing.
Oh god,
I'll have to take a look at this.
I was gonna say, don't make Rob take it on the fucking show, God.
Well, no, because then I'm gonna be wasting my. Then I'm not really concentrating on taking it. I'm just trying to take it to fill in,
Hey, I mean, like being on the show and doing it at the same time, it is indeed working on your problem solving and your data input. I'm joking, dude.
Awful.
I don't know. I mean, some of these, I don't. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, I'm curious.
We'll see.
My guess is either like my level or like very low. One of the two.
So I'm assuming high is a correlation with the
ability to shoot guns mo better.
Okay.
I really want Felix from Redbeard Tactical to take it. Like I'm always wondering. It's like, are you Spectrum or German? And I can't tell.
Man.
I love him. We need him back on.
They're like all born with an engineer's brain.
Oh, 100%.
Well, like it's German. Like German engineering. German engineering is like,
it's like white and rice.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. But they make some great cars, man.
Is white and rice a phrase?
White on rice. Yeah, it's like white on rice.
Oh.
It's like two things that go together. White rice.
Yes, exactly. It's true.
Huh, I've never heard that.
Yeah.
So aside from like I'm gonna get this show back on. I'm gonna get this show back on track if it kills me. So like what we've discussed a lot of so far with shooting has been a lot of isolation, which I feel like it's something when you want to get into becoming great at a skill, like slowing yourself down and focusing on those things, like you were saying, kind of the 80-20 thing to get significantly better at one thing at a time. That's really hard to get newbies to pay attention to because they want to be like great at everything from the get-go. But do you have kind of like a quick start guide to what people should, if they're brand new to not necessarily pistol shooting but getting serious about their pistol shooting, where would you kind of start them with skill sets to work on, or would that kind of be based on the individual, or do you have like a kind of rough game plan to launch anyone into?
Yeah, it's always, I mean, it's always based on the individual, but pretty much everybody in the beginning will start with grip, trigger control, acclimation. So acclimation is just being able to hold still while the shot goes off and you feel and hear everything. Those and recoil control. So like my beginner skills and drills class, like that's where we start. We talk about grip, because I think when everybody understands what they have to do when it comes to grip, they're not going to be as uncomfortable with recoil. And grip is first, because the less you worry about recoil, which is the acclimation part, the more you relax, the more accurate and the faster you can shoot. So you think about it this way, like when it comes to, let's say a stage, a USPSA stage, there's a hierarchy of skills that are important. Okay. And for a beginner, it's a little bit different, but the skills go like this: shooting fundamentals, grip, trigger control, aiming, recoil control. That's first, because you're doing that for every shot.
Yep.
Then the next most thing that you would do in a stage is transition the gun from target to target, including the draw and the reload. The presentation from those. Okay. Then you might have several positions that you go to for a big stage, right? Then you might have one draw, you might have one reload. So like that's the skills focus. However, for a new person, the shooting fundamentals are still important, but what I do with them first is I get their gun handling skills up faster. Because your draw and your reload, even though there's only one, you have to be reasonably sufficient, minimally acceptably proficient at doing it.
Yep.
So my thing in my skills and drills class is focused on a couple things. It's focused on being able to manage recoil, have a proper grip, have a proper trigger press, be able to present the gun and fire accurate first round hits, and be able to manage recoil appropriately. And then we get into the draws at the very end, so that you could draw the gun effectively and hit a target. And that I created that class with the intention of anybody can take it, and anybody could take it to gain to improve their performance, whether they're shooting for performance and competition or personal protection and defense. So, and that's where I would start everybody, because most people are not going to put in the amount of time it takes to get to like my level.
Yeah.
Most people aren't. And that's okay. They don't have to. But that's where it needs to start, so that you, for one, you have fun at the range, and two, if you need to, God forbid, defend yourself, you can confidently.
Yeah.
The kind of area of all of that I'm currently breaching into is more movement, which, as I've said, like I've been shooting long enough that I've done drills aplenty with movement in them, but actually like trying to learn movement in a more formal way and trying to figure out like what I'm doing that's good and what I'm doing that's mediocre has been kind of a learning struggle. And I even had it when we were doing some like very basic glass house stuff out in North Carolina, Nathan, like the two of us. Yeah, and it's just like, what the fuck are my hips doing as I'm coming around corners? Like, I didn't realize I was so fucked on this stuff. And same thing with like, not to bring up the dreaded footwork conversation, but simple things like that. I was like, oh, I haven't really thought about these. My pure focus is don't fucking trip up and move as quickly as possible so I can get to my target so I can hit them. But like starting out with more movement and footwork for stages, that's something honestly that has kind of given me pause with getting into USPSA, because like one, I've been on very informal ranges. Not that I've been unsafe, but there's things like the 180 rule and kind of making sure you navigate stages both to the rules safely and effectively. Like, do you have any kind of guidance on starting out with movement better?
So for one, I mean, really, you just need to get into a match.
Yeah.
Right. So you'll give yourself every excuse you can until you decide to just do it. You need to just sign up for one and do it, because what's the worst that happens? Right? You get DQ'd. You go home. You learn what you needed to do, and you come back the next time.
Yeah.
Right. As far as practicing movement, so like what I practice the most of, and this is relevant to USPSA stuff, because this is probably the most important movement that we can do in USPSA. It's all short movements. It's 6, 8, 10-foot shuffle step kind of movements.
Yeah.
So I have an exercise that I do every day for probably about 10 minutes a day, where I start on one side, I shoot some stuff, I move to another spot and shoot some stuff. And there's like a dividing wall in my garage that separates it. And I do that every single day. And what will happen is you'll learn how to move. I wouldn't really focus on the choreography of it so much. I would just try to be aggressive and explosive.
Yeah.
And see where that, and by doing that sort of exercise daily for a couple minutes a day, over time, you'll start to learn what works best for you. I wouldn't get so caught up in the footwork, but I would look at how can I expose the targets so that I could shoot sooner.
Yeah.
In everything. Now, if you are specifically focusing on some sort of footwork, understand that everything else will go to shit. Not go to shit, but you're not focusing on it, so you're not evaluating the results of what else is happening.
Yeah.
You're just evaluating the results of how you wanted to move and how you did move.
Yeah, that's been what's really fucking me up, is like when I've had people trying to help me with like things as simple as stepping around a barrier, and they're like, "Oh, you should do it like this." I'm like, I go 90% on my feet and my hips and all of that, and then the shooting is just like, "Oh, I forgot we were shooting."
Yeah, well, you're overthinking one input, and you're
you're just focusing on one input, and when you're focusing on one input, the other inputs might suffer.
Yeah,
and that's okay, because you're focusing on the one input, right? So you can also redefine success by how well did I do X. So, for instance, and this is a common thing too, people are afraid to have bad hits, right? But in the interest of gaining speed, sometimes you have to accept that you might have hits that you don't like at first. So you redefine success as, I am going to get X time. I don't care what the hits look like. I don't care. once I get X time, okay, and that becomes normal, like it feels normal to me to be that fast. Now I'm going to start solving for the hits. What can I do different to keep the speed? And what do I need to do to get the hits I'm looking for? And by redefining success in those moments, that helps you actually achieve the totality of success you're looking for. And it's a necessary thing. Like, people who are, so this is common in law enforcement and military especially, right? The penalty of a miss is death.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so heavily ingrained that they're afraid to take any risk and make mistakes to learn. But in training, you have to do exactly that to get better. Right. And it really comes down to differentiating, are you doing this in an on-demand scenario where it matters, or are you doing this for exploration, training, and growth? And as long as you could separate those two and act accordingly to those rules, you'll be just fine. You can explore and make mistakes. So for me, I make mistakes in training all the time, and I can make more mistakes in training and shoot a match the next day and have my best match ever.
Yeah.
Because I know how to separate the two. And that's usually whenever I've had my best matches the day before, I've made the most mistakes pushing extra speed, extra this, extra aggression, right? And solving the problems. It's not like you ignore the problems and say, "Well, fuck it, I'm awesome
I'm just
because
sucking." Yeah.
No. Hey, I'm doing great because I'm meeting my speed goals. Now let's solve the hits. And by solving the hits, you get the speed and the hits over that time training.
Yeah.
And then that'll translate into the match. The only thing in a match is you have to understand, I'm focused on this one thing, whatever it is. My case is just observing the dot in the middle of the target and watching it lift, calling shots. That's it.
Yeah.
And when I do that, I get my best shooting every time.
Man, I'm gonna have so many more messages saying, "BR, get out to a match."
Get out to a match. I'm being hypocritical. I should get.
You will not regret it, man. So my first match, it was a big steel match, and I came out and I was uncomfortable. But
yeah.
Right, another thing, don't tell yourself you're nervous. Tell yourself you're excited, because excitement and nervousness are the same body response. Your mind just assigns a positive meaning to excitement.
Yeah.
And now you use the enhancements to your advantage versus trying to hold it back, and it creates a lot of tension. But anyway, I think I came 67th out of 62nd out of 300.
Holy crap.
And I remember going home and I was not happy.
I think the matches close to me are 20, 30.
Yeah. We have 100 come to our local match most times.
Yeah.
Our local USPSA. So I did that, but then I was like, well, listen, this is the perfect opportunity now it's going to set me on a war path to get better.
Yeah.
And the same thing will happen to you. If you're better off if you do that in 2 weeks than if you wait for 2 years.
Yeah. That has been something on my mind since I started getting serious about the pistol shooting. Was like, okay, well, I'm actually delving into it with a more actionable direction than I ever had previously. And then our camera guy started going to local competitions, and he's like,
yeah, he's pretty good.
He is. He's pretty shithole of that comped out CZ, but yeah, now he's just like, you just gotta do it, dude. You just gotta rip off the Band-Aid and get into it. And ever since we mentioned it a couple times on here, people have been getting in the messages like, hey, you shot a match yet? No.
Yeah. what you should do is find the next available match and sign up for it.
Yeah.
That's unique, because right now you're going to try to find any excuse not to.
No, see, this last weekend was the weekend that I was like, all right, fuck it, we're doing it. And my buddy, he was like, all right, you signing up for it? I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And then he messages me and says, actually, dude, I'm gonna be out of state. I'm like, no, don't give me an excuse to bail. And of course, I fucking bailed because I had the show to edit. So you have to I can always have an excuse. I can always summon one.
You will because you're uncomfortable with what might happen.
Oh yeah, I am unwilling to swallow my pride and fail.
You have and remember, failure is only failure when you actually quit.
Yeah.
Right. So new failure, new problems are success from old issues. So if you define it that way and you continue down the path, success becomes inevitable. But you have to continue going. In your case, like you said, you give yourself any excuse, so you just have to sign up, and it doesn't matter who shows up. What you'll find that you have some of the most helpful people you will ever meet at a match.
Oh yeah.
They will help you. You have questions, right? They'll help you. You'll feel goofy, and honestly, nobody gives a shit. Nobody cares how well you do, right? It's only your ego that's gonna get hurt in the temporary, because you may not have done as well as you would like. But you take that information as a starting point, and now you could do with that whatever you want. Yeah. If you take action on that, you'll become a lot better than you ever thought you could be, which is what happened to me.
Yeah, and I've seen the same thing out of all my friends who have started going to competitions. Is the level, even the guys who are more like concerned with carrying a pack and rifle out in the woods. The second they started doing competitions, it was like, holy shit, dude. Even if prime mill and all the rest, or like actually spent hundreds of rounds just doing more flat range stuff at the weekends prior, it's like once you get performance minded, it really does change what kind of shooting you're doing.
100%, man. It'll change the way you approach everything, and it'll make you that much better at pistol and rifle.
Yeah,
100%.
That is actually making me want to take the drive out and go to a local match.
I was gonna say, have you ever
a bit of a ways?
You ever done any kind of match? Yeah.
Definitely not in Canada. You know what I was doing in Canada. Not in Canada. Definitely.
I didn't know if they had any kind of.
Like, I mean, the old dudes that were really into IPSC, like I'd go to the very rare times I'd go to a indoor range. The guys were like, "Oh, you should do IPSC," and I don't think USPSA exists much in Canada. It might,
Well, it is IPSC in Canada. IPSC is the international version of USPSA.
Did not know that. I guess now I know. But yeah, the local head of the club I talked to a couple times, and he was a super nice guy. I don't think the standards are quite as good there, probably because the lack of infrastructure to train properly is kind of a little bit of a problem. I saw some of the guys shoot a couple times, and I didn't have a lot of interest there. Now I have a lot more interest.
Yeah, and I've had days where I get up at 4:35 in the morning, drive 2.5 hours to a match.
Yeah.
Shoot the match and then drive the 2.5 hours home. Like, even for you at your current state, doing it once every other month may not be a bad.
That's not too bad.
No.
Like I drove for 90 minutes each way to see Jared, a couple times a week. I could probably do that for a match as well.
Right.
Honestly, I think it's
worst
exactly what you said. I've been making excuses.
Yeah, listen, it is a far drive. Don't get me wrong. 2 hours is, that's a pretty significant time investment.
Yeah.
But to do it once every two, like if you were going to get 6 matches in a year, and this gives you the homework for the next 2 months of work, like, the question is, will it have been worth it to you?
Yeah. And I think the answer to that is yes. Like anything that gets you better. I like performance. I really like performance, and I like how wholesome that you make the community seem. Like I've always had misgivings in terms of, I think being on the internet a lot, I see the worst parts of the competitive shooting community sometimes, sure. And I have to remind myself that's not the norm. That's not the majority of people. It's actually quite a small vocal minority.
Right, and it's also what you make of it, right? It's the person you are and who you attract.
Yeah.
So if you're going to be a dickhead and be an asshole and be combative, that's who you're going to attract, right?
100%.
But
you usually see those groups of people grouping together, I find.
Correct. People like-minded people will attract other like-minded people. If you're going to be the kind of person that's encouraging and inspiring, which is largely the people that I associate with within my day-to-day life and competitive shooting, like, you're going to find some of the best people you've ever met, which is true of my life in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, our camera guy just starting to go to local matches out here. He's already got like a small group of like young master shooters. Like some of them not even old enough to drink yet, who are teaching him all sorts of incredible shit.
Yeah.
And
That's really cool.
well, that is something that's kind of uplifting, I think, in all parts of the shooting community right now. Whether it's competition, tactical, or otherwise, is you're seeing a lot of young dudes like start to get into it. I don't know how it is out where you are, Rob, but is the culture kind of in a healthy spot in terms of like new bloods and all that kind of thing?
So our local range gets, like I said, they have matches every weekend of different varieties. Our USPSA match gets anywhere from 80 to 100 and 110 people every week. Right. It is very healthy, and it fills up within the first 2 hours of registration most of the time.
Damn. That
Holy
honestly,
shit.
that has been kind of an issue with me. Not again making excuses, but the registration fills up like pretty damn quick, which is encouraging in a way because I mean, like it's not just an old boys club of like
No.
the guys who can run circles around you. It seems to be a lot of people. Like there's Europeans in our local shooting group who have come over here and just like jumped into it and gone full bore, which
That's
tells me
awesome.
I need to yeah. There's like a Swede that's a friend of Phil's that's like just
A
crushes it
Swede.
out. A Swede.
I don't trust Swedes
Well,
with guns anymore.
and
Not
and
after
the,
Childerberg.
and the
That's
other thing too,
that's true.
the other thing too is they so the rule some of the rule sets have changed. So now in production division they allow 15 rounds as of January 31st. So that's a new rule set. But within the past couple of years, they so production division, carry optics division used to have your equipment behind the hip bones. So you couldn't do conceal carry from appendix per se.
Yeah. I know
Now
they changed that in the weapon light rules fairly
yep.
recently.
So they changed that. The weapon lights can be on there. You can't mag well. So now they add a new division too. It's called limited optics that accommodate optics guns that don't have compensators but can have magwells, single action only, that kind of stuff. So your staccato 2011s that people conceal carry. Now you could shoot that with your carry gear in a match and actually get the real deal of how your gear performs.
Yeah.
That was my original intent, was to shoot it was to shoot limited minor from concealed carry. And at the time our range didn't allow inside the waistband holsters for competition, so I shot production. That was the next closest like realistic division at the time with iron sights. Um, and now they've changed it. So running a carry optics gun, which is no magwell but an optic, and 140 millimeter magazines, which are good for typically 23, 24 rounds. You can run that in a match, and people could be reasonably competitive with that. The only place where you get kind of boned is like a standing reload with concealed carry.
Yeah.
Because most people, like, that's where clearing the Garmin, getting access to the mag can be a little bit. It just takes more time. Unless you wear a short shirt and you can kind of just get it out of the way fast, right?
Yeah.
But
Little crop top just for the match day.
yeah. But you can do that now, and you can actually compete with your carry gear. So that's even more of a reason. And the good thing about USPSA is that you can decide how you want to do it. It's free, the plan is freestyle. You choose to do it how you want to, and your job is to execute it one time to the best of your ability. And people think, oh, but you can see the targets. Oh, you could do this. Come and try it, and you'll see that it's not as simple as it seems. And that's only going to make you better. And that's the whole point.
That's my my favorite thing about shooting any kind of drill with friends is like, okay, here's the order of the targets, and I have some crazy memory issues. So like they'll explain it to me.
Same.
They'll
When the
explain
timer
it to me.
goes, my brain turns off.
Yes, 6 seconds prior. I'm like, all right, 1 and then 3 and then 1 again. Go through it. All right, 2, hit that one over there with 2. I don't think there was a third target. How do we do, boys? What the fuck were you doing?
Yeah, I remember the first time years ago. I ran a just like a really simple drill, like 1, 2, 3, 4 on like one round into the first target on the right, 2 rounds into the second target on the left, 3 rounds into the one in the middle, or some shit like that. And I just fucked it up. I fucked it up for weeks. As soon as there was something where I had to actually plan, how many rounds goes into each target, it would be an entirely random amount.
Like, can you fucking count? No.
Yeah, the second that timer went off, my brain ceased functioning. It's better now, and the introduction of more complicated drills. But at the same time, like, I've never planned a course of fire to run through, other than Kill House and Sims and shit like that, which is not the same thing at all. It's not remotely as like competitive or performance driven.
It's different.
Yeah, I would love to, and I mean, like, I've done some Steel Challenge stuff, but that's about it. But God, part of me, and I've been considering doing this for a little while, just getting a storage facility, buying a hell of a lot more target stands, and just setting up courses for myself and friends to run through.
That's what your living room's for.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, if you watch my stories daily, like, I do stage work every day.
Yeah, I saw how your garage is set up. That is a clever idea.
It's just being resourceful. That's all it is. What do you have to work with, and you maximizing the potential of it. So the stage work for me, I do about 15 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day of stage work, and the stage is different every day. And because there's a sea of targets, I have to discern which ones I'm shooting and which ones I'm not based upon what I planned. So that's forcing me to learn how to program and execute on what I programmed.
Yeah.
And that's so in my stage is anywhere from 30 to 50 trigger presses. So it's constantly just going, it's just repeating it, like the repetition of the visualization, continuing to do those repetitions is what makes you perform better on the stage. And if you were at a match, you would be doing those visualizations in your head. And for me, I do a little bit of physical movement too. I would try to do that as many times as I could, 20, 30 times before I go. And that's what helps create success in those, 10 seconds. And the better you get, the less time it takes. So
yeah,
the better it gets, the more you stand around, the less you're shooting. So
yeah.
That is, I love this. I love this. This has actually changed my perspective on this quite a bit. Not in a very positive way, I think.
Awesome, man.
Yeah. I mean, it wasn't against before. It was more like neutral.
I really ought
yes,
to.
This is a really good thing.
Yeah.
I think other people should do this and get good. Now it's a, hey, I want to go do this and get good. Why is there not a match tomorrow? I'm hopping in the car.
Sign up, man. Find one.
Yeah.
Find one. I expect you guys to message me tomorrow saying which match you signed up for.
Okay.
Deal.
Okay. That's good homework.
I'm already. I've messaged friends being like, "Hey, I learned new thing. Let's go range tomorrow."
Do it.
So that's going to happen.
Awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm going to absolutely shirk my responsibilities tonight and the work that I have to do, and just dry fire for like 2 hours.
Hey, I do it every day.
I was gonna say, this sounds actually very standard for you, Nathan.
That's a fair point. Fuck responsibility. Fuck being an adult. I just want to play with guns.
Mm-hmm. Well, I play with guns for for business, so there's that too.
Oh, so
I mean, yeah.
With all of the dry fire that you were getting in, you said like 15-20 minutes a day. What's the kind of equivalency of like live fire work you do like on a week or monthly basis?
So I go in like a schedule. So in the winter months, I'll go once a week usually. I try to shoot 1-2 matches a month all year round. December, January, that might not happen just because of snow. Like, it hasn't happened because of snow the past 2 months.
Yeah.
Around March, April, I start going to the range twice a week. And then right around August, I'll start going 3 times a week. And this is, so dry fire is as often as I can do it 7 days a week.
Yeah.
So, you have the occasional travel, but even then I'll do some dry fire. But the intention is 90 minutes a day for 7 days a week.
Damn.
And then, the live, so at this point it's training, so it's not dry fire and live fire bolt training. So going to the range counts towards that time accumulation.
Yeah.
So I might dry fire for 15 minutes, then go to the range for 2 hours, and then I might dry fire at night for another 15 minutes. Like it all depends, but dry fire typically is 2 sessions for me.
Yeah.
So it's usually 45 to 60 minutes the first, and about 30 to 45 minutes the second.
Yeah.
And I get lost in it too, so I always go crazy unless I have somewhere to go.
Yeah. That's the 90 minutes is the goal, but it occasionally or often it goes beyond.
Yeah.
I saw a video the other day. I want to call the guy Tony Wong, but I think I might just be being racist.
What do you want
about? USPSA GM that shot. I believe he competed with a Glock 26.
I've heard of him.
To prove the point that guns don't actually matter nearly as much as your skill, and I appreciate that. I do appreciate that. I just wanted your take.
As far as what? The gun?
Both, I guess, because I find it interesting.
Honestly, I mean, this Gerson, it's a $600 gun.
Yes.
Like it's not, so this gun,
legally distinct Beretta.
Pretty much. Well, it's funny because I was talking with the owner, and so they make the 92s, or they made the 92s for the Turkish military.
Yeah.
So they made these with the programs that they had for the 92s. Like that's what they did. Because they had the military contract, I guess, something along those lines. And that's why they made these, and that's why these are strikingly similar to the 92s.
Yeah.
Right. But I've shot. So I shot for Atlas, right? I was shooting $6,000 guns.
Yeah.
$6,000 2011s. Amazing guns. Excellent quality. You can tell the amount of craftsmanship and man hours that go into the quality of it. Phenomenal shooting guns. Love them. I love this just as much.
Yeah.
Before I got sponsored by EAA, I was going to shoot my Canic, my SFX rival, Polymer.
Yeah.
$600 gun. Like, the guns don't matter as much as the person behind the gun. As long as they are reliable and they're good enough.
Yeah.
Right. So this gun, like, it's not anything special. It's not overly heavy. The trigger press, the double action is about 6.5 to 7 pounds. The single action is 4.25. So it's nothing, this is nothing like, holy shit, it's a 1 pound trigger. No, it's not.
Yeah.
It's got some minor stuff. So I have a recoil spring, a guide rod in here. I have a mainspring, and I have an adjustable mag release.
Adjustable mag release. I've never heard of that. I think
so. So you see that little screw there?
Oh,
it allows me to adjust it up and down. So I liked the position of where my Canic mag release was, because it was like literally right in line with my thumb. This one with the factory mag release is a bit low, which is fine. And if I wanted to train, if they didn't offer this, I wouldn't be like totally upset. I would just adjust where my thumb goes. But because they had this, I put it on, and here we are. But there's not a lot of that this needs, really. I could shoot this entirely stock and be happy with it also.
I think there's
huh?
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, I think there's a lot in that where we are currently in a fight in terms of messaging between like consumerism and plugging in and doing the work with like skills.
Yeah.
And like we so often, and as a culture, we've been raised to be like, we can always buy solutions. And when it comes to performance, it's like, dude, you can really put in the work with something, that costs like $600 or thereabouts, like a standard Glock 19. We had an intern at work recently who, I think I've talked about him on the show a little bit before, but from California, but like gun guy, and he was getting his hands on pistols for basically like his dad had some, but it was the first time he had one of his own that he could dry fire and like really put in tons of time with. And that dude is already like a phenomenal shooter just because they've been obsessive with putting in the skills and the time into a stock Glock 19 and just like just breaking that fucker in with dry fire. I mean, it was awesome at work. Just throughout the day, you just constantly hear click, shh, click, shh, click,
Yep.
and they were just getting those reps in. And now, like they're out there doing competitions and crushing it, like far better than most people I know who got those bad habits in, or and have many more years of shooting, or who only put money into their gear, like uh, the guys
I know a
outperforming.
lot of people like that.
Yeah.
It's and like don't get me wrong, I like a nice gun as much as the next guy. I'm never going to shit on someone for Gucciing stuff. You know me, I do that.
You got them cyberpunk
wrong with
guns.
Yeah, I just like cyberpunk guns. I liked the game. I like the aesthetic. You can't buy performance still.
Nope.
It's
Well,
consumerism for the sake of consumerism.
and I'll say this, like, the better you get, right, the more you know what works right for you.
Yeah.
And that's really the main thing, like what works well for you. Buying gear for the sake of trying to buy results, like that's not going to work.
Yeah.
It's not going to work. But the better you get, the more you can target, hey, I think this thing will help.
Yeah.
When it does. So like this adjustable mag release is a perfect example. Like, do I need it?
You've made the gun fit
No.
you.
But honestly, like I looked at where my Canic mag release sat, which was about a quarter inch higher than this, and I said, well, let me see if there's another option for this that I can buy that would work. And as a result, I got something that really works well for me.
Yeah.
I don't need it, but it's nice to have when I can
Yeah.
find it. And now you don't fuck around buying. Okay, you buy the latest piece of gear. You buy the latest piece of gear. Like I've had my mag pouches for like 2 years. Because I like them and they work.
Yeah.
And that's it. I don't have to play around buying all different pieces of gear to try to make up for what is a lack of training.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I absolutely agree.
Come to this country, and I'm sure like a lot of people just have the same feeling when they're an adult and they're of age to buy whatever guns and gear and shit they want. There is the temptation to just buy and try new things and try new things. But what really helped me the most was both the ammo shortage and like the economy just going to shit, because it was like a real hard stop on being able to attempt to buy performance. It was like, no, you're stuck with whatever you've invested in thus far, and now you have to get the most performance out of it you can. And like, regardless of the external factors, that was such a godsend to have like a hard stop and a chance to have that realization and be like, oh, it is me. I have hit a certain level. Like I hit that with just iron sights on a handgun. I wanted to get a red dot, but it was a significant investment, and I was like, there is a lot more performance I could still be pushing out with just using iron sights.
Yeah.
Yep. I started off with an M&P. Like that's what I shot for a couple years before I started competing. Then I trained with Vogel, and I asked him the question: do I keep this stock? Do I modify this? Or do I buy a new gun? And he had said, no matter what you get, you're going to grow with it. So I ended up switching into the CZ line, the Shadow 2s, and I shot the Shadow 2s for 3.5 years. That's the only.
I see you do videos with them sometimes. I think even
still. That's what I was using. That's what I made GM on. But I spent 3.5 years with one platform. I had 90,000 rounds on my beater Shadow 2.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So I'm back to the same thing now. So I went into limited division. I shot the Atlas, the Titan and the Artemis in 40. And then I got sponsored by EAA, which was a deal we were working on for a while. And now I'm back to the same thing. Like I'm sticking with this gun for
just the Gersen.
Yep. I love this.
I like that. I like that.
That thing, this is probably my favorite gun so far. And that's it just agrees with me.
Yeah.
The way it handles, the way it shoots, like it's softer than the Canic, and I really like the way the Canic moved around from target to target, and that retains that property while being a bit lighter shooting compared to it. It's not as the Atlas was very heavy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't terribly heavy because it was about 43 ounces, but it's still that shit weighs on you. And shooting 40 and honestly in USPSA the iron sight divisions are going away. So I shot production, right? Saw it starting to die at the very end there. Started shooting limited, saw it starting to die in the middle. I see less and less people shooting it. So now I'm like, well, let me get ahead of the curve for once and get back, get into an optics division and just stay there for the foreseeable future. Because that's going to have higher pay value as time goes on than switching back and forth.
More reps on a category that's going to stick around for a bit.
Yep. And just more reps with one platform.
Yeah. So that like with you, there's no like rotation of handguns or anything. It's just put it into one platform at a time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Carry this gun too.
Yeah.
I got my tier 1 concealed holster downstairs.
Tier 1 concealed are great. I recently started just using all of their stuff. We have no professional relationship. This is not a tier 1 concealed sponsored podcast.
No, it's not.
But it could be.
But it could be.
He does follow me, so I could ask him.
No, I know a couple guys there, and they're really cool people, and they make good holsters. They
do
really
you know the rad score?
I do not know their rad scores, so I assume, Brian, if you're listening to this, send me your rad score. Actually, wait, no, I think he already did. Which I'm like, no, I'm not going to comment whether someone passed or failed. That's between them and God.
We'll see. I don't know that mine will be that high, but we'll see.
I have belief in you. I believe you will join the passing score gang, and BR will be stuck in the fail child baby town frolics gang.
I did score high in the psychopath test.
Oh no!
So the
here's
antisocial personality disorder test. I'm curious.
Yeah. Well, Travis Haley, he recommended a whole bunch of books when I trained with him in 2016, and one of the books he recommended was The Wisdom of Psychopaths by Kevin Dutton.
Yeah,
and so I found that to be a very interesting book. It talks about how some of the highest performers have a lot more in common with psychopaths than people would like to believe. The difference is they can turn it on and off. So interestingly speaking, I was reading this on a plane too, which made the flight attendant a bit nervous. But not that nothing bad happened, but so they had on his website, he had a psychopath like a small 25 question test, and I scored like borderline, like just below.
Yeah, interesting.
So it was like high functioning psychopath, basically.
Yeah,
basically.
It's a switch. It's a choice.
Right. Yeah.
Well, that's and CEOs have a lot in common with psychopaths. Like I said, the only difference is they know how to turn it on and they turn it off. True psychopaths, they have all the dials turned up all the way and they can't fucking turn any of it off.
That's just who they are.
And that's what causes a lot of the harmful byproduct of that. Whereas like a neurosurgeon, for instance, when they're working on you, you don't want them to have empathy and emotion. They can't. They have to be stone cold, not killers in this case, but they have to have stone cold emotion. Like they can't have any. They're a robot. They're a machine. That's it. The same thing with comparing, let's say, a serial killer to a special forces operator.
Yeah.
Right. They have to be able to kill, right, and they have to not be affected by killing if they have to. Right, so they essentially have to be trained, but they have similar makeups, right?
Yeah.
But
that's interesting you mentioned that. I have read studies on antisocial personality disorder, which is kind of the umbrella term that psychopathy and sociopathy and whatnot fall under, and that branches out and umbrellas into all sorts of fun little
quirks,
disorders. But exactly what you said, people who work in healthcare, people who work high level finance, CEOs, and special operations guys all score really high on those tests generally.
Yep.
Yeah. Sorry. Go on.
No, but it's just that they can turn it off and they could use it for the right reasons.
Yes.
Whereas
Well,
a
you
true
know what's funny?
technique-
That what that also has a correlation with? High rad scores. Not joking.
Well, I'm gonna have
Yeah,
after we're done with this.
that is not a joke, actually.
Well, after
Yeah.
we're done with this, I'm gonna have to tell you here.
Yeah. No, please.
Part out.
There we go. We've got some homework to trade. We've got to go and book ourselves into a competition.
Yes,
and then
and
Rob's got
I need
to
to
give
go
us a
shoot
number.
and dry fire much more, and then pop my little magwell off so I can be limited optics. I don't know. Does this thing matter? I don't know.
Let me
Just
say
have it 'cause-
the magwell matters.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the magwell is what actually makes it limited optics. If you took that magwell off, it looks like a carry optic gun.
Yeah, that was the intention of this, so I'll probably just pop it off.
And limited optics is it's going to be a popular division too. So if you left it on, it's not really a big deal.
Yeah.
That's the whole purpose they made that.
Does your light matter? I've heard about that being like a factor because people will swap out the battery for a bunch of weights.
Well, the light has to be functional.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh
Now-
man, my friend Frank sent me a light that's a little LED in
Yeah, it is.
a block
I've
of
seen it.
copper. I'm going to keep my thoughts
is
on that
legal.
to myself.
I'll say this:
Yeah.
when the flashlight rule came out,
Yeah.
anybody who was a high level shooter didn't use one.
Yeah.
Again, doesn't matter. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't compete with your because you want to compete more in a carry style. Use your fucking flashlight, but don't put on a flashlight for recoil reduction for the mighty 9mm round.
Yeah. I'm going to shoot with a flashlight because I've always shot with a flashlight. I
Exactly.
physically have never owned a handgun of any kind that didn't have a flashlight within a couple of days.
And that is the right reason to you keep the flashlight on.
Yeah.
I would shoot your gun just like that in limited optics because that's going to give you more feedback because that's what you actually shoot.
Yeah, it's like this goon beam ratty pistol light with like scuff marks all over it is not going to add enough weight to make a difference. I just like it, and that's how I shoot. So, but
There we go.
I think that's a good way of looking at it, and I'm glad that they allow lights now. And it kind of rots me that people are trying to game the system. I think it's a little unsportsmanlike. So I guess I am commenting on it a little, but at the same time, like any rule is going to be exploited, and I'm sure if you're good enough, it's not going to make a difference anyway.
And honestly, if the rules are there to exploit, as long as you're playing within the rules, right? I mean, you're allowed to do it. I mean, doesn't mean you need to, but like the rules are there to give you guidelines on what to do. And if you try to exploit it a little bit and it serves you gain, that's great. But honestly, like training and consistency and training and all that, like those are going to get you further than trying to game the rules with like putting lead in your flashlight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
My opinion.
Yes. No, I absolutely agree with that. And considering, you shoot and win with a $600 pistol, Tony, I still want to say Wong, but I feel like, again, I'm being racist because that's like one of 5 Asian names.
No, but I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking about.
He can compete to a high level with a Glock 26.
Oh, and he's a great shooter.
Yeah, and he seems like a nice guy too. He's someone I'd like to pick his brain as well.
I really wish we could get his name right.
Yeah, I'm just going to call him Tony Wong.
Hold on, this is
wait. Making Grand Master with a Glock 26. The gun doesn't matter. Tony Wong.
Oh shit. Okay, so I wasn't being racist.
Hey.
Hey.
Yep, there you go.
Hey, I'm also yellow. I'm allowed. I'm half yellow. I guess I'm beige.
There you go.
God.
Yep. Yeah, I just did the same thing BR did. I pulled it up on YouTube.
I was like, I gotta fact check this before we get off here, and it's like it was not Tony Wong at all. It was like something completely different.
Was it not?
No. I'm saying it was Tony Wong.
Okay. Well, Tony Wong, I love you. Keep being you. You're my hero, and so are you, Rob.
I try, man. I try to do the best I can to help others. That's it.
No, I appreciate that. That's genuinely the ethos of this whole thing. And
this show is all about proliferating even the small touch points to the the macro of making everyone who listens and everyone in this space the best shooter and hopefully the best person they can be. So really appreciate you coming on and helping us, giving us a lot to think about in terms of pistol shooting and
homework.
getting involved in some competition. Yes, we need more homework. It's the 2024 year of making moves, dude.
I'm going to have to put a little bit of work into consistently getting my palm in the same place and getting that pinky pressure consistently.
And
I've got my
just
homework
time,
for
man.
that.
Time and continued effort, and you'll see it makes a huge difference, and the gun just tracks much better in recoil too.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm looking forward to it.
awesome.
Seriously, thank you for coming on. Hopefully we can do this again at some point after BR and I have popped our competition cherries.
100%, 100%. Like I said, I mean, we could definitely do this again. I'd be happy to. We'll get those guides out for everybody, and we'll be able to talk more about all this stuff.
Yes,
I think it's great.
If you're listening to this, you probably know we haven't done really guides in a little while because I'd exhausted my knowledge base and have to find people to help. Rob is very graciously helping with rewriting our pistol curriculum, so be prepared for some cool stuff with him to come out kind of soon.
But if you're a subject matter expert in anything you think would be relevant to proliferate, like reach out. We don't bite.
Yeah, we've got some cool stuff coming.
I don't know. BR might bite. I don't know.
I will. Well, that's why I don't even check my DMs, because I do bite. But Nathan will very graciously check the DMs.
I try and check the DMs, but then occasionally I'll get a message like "hello," and it's a like year-old DM I just never replied to because things do slip through the cracks, and I apologize. I genuinely do try. We just get a lot like every day.
107,000 followers. Yeah, I could see that.
It's a never-ending wasteland of which there is no escape, and
we're outdoorsy people, so it's like, checking, like, just staring at my misery rectangle for 3 hours.
It's my only social media too. Well, the only one I really use. Awesome. Other than my Twitter account, which entirely only exists to follow pictures of people being photoshopped as black and Chinese. But
on that note, Rob, thank you very much. Is there anything? Two things. Is there anything else you want to share with the audience before we get out of here?
Well, listen. So I shared the link in there, but if anybody wants to get links to free lessons or see about training with me online or in my 8-week course, you can go to robepifania.net. There's a free drills page. I don't know if you guys can share this.
Free
drills.
We can put this in
the description.
Please do, because then you guys will be able to get 4 free drills to give you an idea of how I am, how I teach, and it'll give you a lot of value for yourself, and you'll be able to get in contact with me if you have questions. So if you need to reach out, you're never bothering me. Ask questions away. Follow me on Instagram at Rob Epifania, and look forward to hearing from all y'all.
Oh, yeah. I appreciate that, and you're responsive too. Like when I initially got in contact with you, you were there. I appreciate that immensely.
I love
when he
the
says 4 free
man.
drills, it's like full videos where he does like full breakdowns. It's information that is all really relevant and really helped change how I do stuff. I'm shilling for you because you're humble. Yeah, it's really great shit.
Awesome.
Thank you again for coming on. And hopefully, people will absorb some information from this and become better shooters. I know I will.
Yeah, man. Look forward to doing it again.
Yeah. All right, we got one more thing before we go, Rob.
Oh yeah. Fuck.
I can't believe you almost forgot after like 130 episodes, Nathan. But
oh my god.
We need some dad advice from you to our listeners, as if they are your young children gazing into your eyes. They need some knowledge from Papa Rob.
What is this, open-ended?
Oh yeah,
yes.
yeah. Whatever you want. Funny, serious, whatever you like.
Let's see. Well, I don't do funny, but I'd say that was funny. But well, I would say this. In life, try to learn to solve problems. So learning to solve problems and helping other people solve problems and seeing new problems as success from old ones over a long enough time horizon, you will become successful. Success becomes inevitable. Most people are afraid to struggle and fail because they think they're going to look bad. but failure is necessary for growth and success. So as long as you keep going, the only true failure is quitting. So keep going and keep finding that new thing, and eventually you'll get to where you want to go and far exceed it.
Hell yeah.
I like that. That is
dad advice.
Excellent dad advice. I think better than what was last week. It's like sun your balls or something.
Good comic relief, man, but I'm too much of a nerd to say something really funny.
No. You're great. Thank you again for coming on, and thank you if you're listening to this for apparently, possibly, this is anecdotal. I don't know. Making us the second largest gun podcast. I don't know if that's true, but I'm just going to assume that it is. If you're the first rated, listened to gun podcast, we're coming for your ass, and we will tickle you. This is a legal threat.
Whoever you are.
Whoever you are. You can use this against me in a court of law. We will come for you.
This is a threat.
This is a threat. Okay, we love you all. Okay, bye.